Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
On this episode of the Jeff Crilley Show, we're going to be talking about limiting beliefs and how to just power through, even when you don't believe it yourself. To talk about that, New York Times bestselling author Debra Poneman. She is a much sought-after speaker. She's spoken internationally. Debra, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I run into so many people, Debra, who I guess you call it the imposter syndrome. They don't think they're worthy of success. So let's talk about that. With 40 million people unemployed, I think there's a lot of people who are beaten down right now, and they need some words of inspiration. What would you say to a person who is between jobs right now?
Well, I would say that at this particular time, the thing that you have to do is to be grateful for what you have. I know it sounds like a platitude, but there are a lot of people who are struggling, and if you could put food on your table, if you have a roof over your head, just be grateful for that, because having gratitude opens you up for more, okay? And a lot of people who are in jobs that they don't like, I always say to them, instead of cursing the job that you're at, look for the good, have gratitude that you have a paycheck coming in, but don't let a day go by without taking a step closer to what your real dream is, what burns in your heart. You were given talents by the Creator, the God of your understanding, because you are supposed to use them. And if you're suffering, it's because you're not using your God-given talents, okay? We each have different ones. And like, I can't dance, I can't sing, I can't play a musical instrument. I shudder at the sight of blood, so I could never do anything in the health regime, or the health world, but I'm a good speaker. And I love to write. So I use my God-given talents, but in those years when I couldn't, and I had to make money selling investments, I said, thank you every day. I got my paycheck and I went to work, and every day I took a step closer to what I really wanted to do with my life.
Well, you are a riveting speaker, and we have a little clip that I pulled from your website. I'd like to share that with the audience right now.
Everywhere you look, people are stressed about not being successful enough. But that's a whole lot of pain we really don't need. I believe success is about finding something that lights you up, something that makes you want to spring out of bed in the morning because you have a vision, a dream, a purpose. As soon as you pick something you love and start doing it, you're already successful, because success is about the journey. I'm going to show you how to discover and live your ideal life's work and create financial abundance doing it. I'm going to show you how to have the deep and fulfilling relationships you've always dreamed of. And most importantly, how to experience the peace and happiness that living in the flow brings. You were put on earth to do great things. You're watching this because you're already wanting to make your life brighter. You've already jumped into that universal energy, that flow of yes. Join me on my course and I'll show you not only how to have a successful life, but how to have a life that that is totally lit up.
Wow. I just got goosebumps. You are so motivating. Have you always been this way? Have you always been the optimistic person who bounces out of bed with a smile on her face?
My mother said that I was born happy. And I always say, Mom, what did that look like? Did I like pop out of you with a smile on my face? And she said, pretty much.
I love that. Well, I want you to share the story of your amazing book. We're going to put the book cover up on the screen. Chicken Soup for the American Idol Soul. How did that book get born?
Well, one of the principles that I teach when I teach my success seminars around the world is that one of the ways to become successful is that you always treat everybody as the most important person in the world. You don't judge people by their age, by their race, by their gender. The person who's standing in front of you is the most important person in the world at that moment. So don't go looking around the room to see if there's somebody more important to talk to. No. You give that person your full attention. So I was giving a Yes to Success seminar actually back in the early 80s. And this little college student comes bouncing up and saying, I want to work for you. I want to work for you. Instead of thinking, what could she offer to me? You know, she's some college student. I gave her my full attention. I heard her out and I hired her. She actually quit graduate school to come and be my secretary. And several years later, that young woman, whose name is Marcy Shimoff, became the #1 nonfiction best-selling woman author of all time, selling 16 million Chicken Soup books, and also the New York Times bestsellers, Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason. She was a star in The Secret. And she actually got her start speaking when she was my secretary, and I got sick and I couldn't do a speaking engagement. And she said, well, we'll have to cancel it. And I said, no, we won't. And she said, yes, we will. And she said, who's going to do it? And I said, you are. And that was the beginning of her speaking career. And how the book came about was that she had already written Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul and the Mother's Soul too. And the Chicken Soup people asked her to write Chicken Soup for the American Idol Soul, to go and interview all the American Idols and the judges and the directors and the producers. But she couldn't because she was under contract for Happy for No Reason. They said to her, do you know somebody then who's a great writer and who knows American Idol backwards and forwards? And another thing you might not know about me, Jeff, is that at the height of my career, my seminars were being taught all over the world. And I was about to have my own daytime TV talk show, and my book was in the hands of a New York publisher. I gave it all up because I decided that I wanted to be a full-time mom at home. And one of the things I teach is to follow your heart, and it's the only true path to success. And my heart was home with my little baby girl who had just been born. Everybody said, have you gone out of your mind? And I say, absolutely, right out of my mind and right into my heart. And there I stayed for 20 years, actually 21 years, because her brother was born 3 years later. But in the middle of that time, the Chicken Soup people asked her to write the book. She couldn't do it. And they said to her, do you know someone who's a great writer and who knows American Idol backwards and forwards? And she said, I do. My friend Debra, all she does is watch American Idol with her kids. And I know she's a great writer. And I was handed a best-selling book to write. Basically, it can buy the #1 TV series of all times and the #1 nonfiction book series of all times into one book. But the success principle behind it is treat everybody as the most important person in the world and follow your heart. Because if I hadn't followed my heart and stayed home with my kids, I wouldn't have known American Idol, and I wouldn't have been handed that best-selling book to write.
Well, let's dig a little deeper on that. Walking away from, an amazing career at the height of your career, that's got to be a tough decision.
Actually, it wasn't, because I took one look at my baby girl and I didn't want to leave her to go to the bathroom, let alone to leave her to go and film a TV show every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning or go on a book tour around the country. So it was a pretty easy decision to make. And again, I know that not everybody has the luxury, because I did have a husband who made a good living. Not many people have the luxury of just not having to work. But what I do have to say is that I was grateful for that. And I'm grateful to this day But not everybody has to be a full-time mom at home to be a good mom. There are plenty of great kids who are raised by nannies and grandparents and aunties and in the foster system. But I was just blessed to be able to be in that position. But I'll tell you, people ask me if I ever doubted my decision, and I say absolutely, yeah. There were times when I doubted it. When my students were becoming New York Times bestselling authors and being on Oprah, and I was knee deep in dirty diapers, you don't think I had the thought, I've ruined my life. But I do know that if you follow your heart, it will never lead you astray. And also, I believe that we were all put on earth for a purpose, and your purpose is not going to go away if you take a year off to be with your mother while she's dying, or if you take 3 years off to go to Uganda and hold AIDS babies, or if you take 6 months off to work on a political campaign, or 21 years off to be a full-time mom or dad at home. What you were put on earth to do is not going to go away, and it's only going to be stronger if you follow your heart. And I knew that I was put on earth to teach success, and here I am again 21 years later.
I love it. You're so inspiring. And I want people to absolutely enroll in your course. Give us one more secret from your course just to whet their appetite.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you something that I learned from my son staying home for those 21 years. I'm going to make a very long story, very short, but it's an excellent success principle. And that is, my son was born loving basketball, and all the other boys wanted their birthday parties to be at Chuck E. Cheese. When he was 5, he insisted his birthday party be at Michael Jordan's restaurant. And as he grew up, his love for basketball never lessened. And when he was a freshman, he made the A team, but since white boys decided they cannot jump, he never got a minute of playing time. But he realized that he had an ability, an uncanny ability, to predict who would go to the Division I schools and who would even go into the NBA one day. And so he started a basketball website, and he became known as the go-to scout in all of Chicago for college coaches looking for high school talent. As a matter of fact, there was a full-page article about him in Sports Illustrated, why college hoops coaches seek the advice of a 16-year-old scout. And shortly thereafter, he realized that the Division I kids really didn't need him, but the Division II kids did, because scouts were not scouting them. So he started a showcase, and he would invite kids to be seen by college coaches, and that was 10 years ago. And to date, he has raised over $50 million in college scholarship money for kids in the inner city of Chicago. And what is the success principle here? Well, while he was sleeping on my couch and raising millions of dollars for scholarship money, he wouldn't take a penny for himself. And I would say to him, Daniel, there has to be a way that you can make some money for yourself. And he'd say, Mom, just be patient. I'm building relationship capital. And then more months would go by, and I go, Daniel, isn't there some way? You can't just like, he says, Mom, you just have to trust me. Relationship capital is the only capital you really need to be successful in life, and I am building it. Long story short, a few years later, he decides he wants to make a movie about basketball in Chicago. Somebody gave him over almost $500,000 to make his movie, which was then nominated for an Emmy. It's called Shot in the Dark, documentary on basketball in the inner city of Chicago, because he had built relationship capital. A few years later, he decides he wants to open his own sports management firm. Somebody else gave him millions of dollars to start his own sports management firm, and he now he's 28, he has 8 agents working for him, and he has NBA players and NFL players because he built relationship capital. Nobody on the Mavericks, but hopefully we will have somebody on the Mavericks. So I think that if people want to hit a home run every time, relationship capital is doing things for other people with no thought of gain. just doing them, because that is human nature. Does the sun need thanks for shining? Does a rose need thanks for blooming? Do we need thanks? Do we need anything in return? Just do good things for people, and you will be building relationship capital, and it will always come back to you.
Outstanding. Just one more question, and then we're going to put your website up. I noticed on your website there's a lot of, giving back to the community, humanitarian efforts. Why is that so important to you, Debra?
Well, it's the principle of the tide. It's really saying that even in these hard times, when people are just, some people are needing to take welfare, some people are needing to take loans. These are not easy times. But if you still take 10% and you give it away, you're saying, I trust that this too shall pass. I trust that there's a higher intelligence at work here. And I trust it so much that I'm going to give 10% away. And I know some people say it should go to the source of your spiritual inspiration, but I say when you give to a charity, to a nonprofit that's doing good work in the world, like my son's Shot in the Dark Foundation, then I believe that the Creator smiles down on you and shows you that your efforts will be rewarded.
Wow. Debra, thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to put your website up so people can connect and sign up for your course. YesToSuccess.com is the website. Debra, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all you do to contribute to the
You
planet.
bet. God bless. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.